Dogworks Radio is sponsored by Alaska Dogworks. Check out their website at alaskadogworks.com. From First Paw Media, sponsored by First Paw Coffee Company, this is the Dog Driver Show. Visit our website at dogworksradio.com. Now here are your hosts, Robert Forto and Kurosh Parto.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is Robert and I'm here with my co-host KP and we are the Dog Driver Show. Be sure to check us out over on social media, just searching for Dogworks Radio. And today we have a guest calling in from Switzerland. His name is Patrick Wirz. KP, what do you know about Patrick?
Patrick Wirz and his wife Barbara, they've been in this sport for, I believe, over 20 years or so. I personally never raced Patrick or Barbara when I was in Europe because we left after, I believe, they started. But I've been following his results and her results and the family's result on the circuit, and they have world championships and all kind of medals in their background. Strong team and very, very committed people in a country which is difficult to have dogs because it's small. Switzerland is small, it's expensive, and you have to be extremely dedicated. Patrick, welcome to the show, and tell us a little bit more about who you are and how you started in the sport.
Hello, everybody. I'm Patrick Wirz from Switzerland. I'm 53 years old, started in the sport in 1997 with my first dog. It was a Gracer, breeded by Birgitte Ness. My background was in the past I was a really good cross-country skier. I was in this time owner of a sport shop, and I had a client who made pulka races. And he said to me, you have to try out once to ski with my dog. And I made it, and it was incredible funny. And so I bought my first dog. And this dog, called Jelly, came from Birgitte Ness from Norway. She was in this time also 6-dog Musher in sprint, more or less. And so we started our career.
That's interesting. Patrick mentioned Birgitte Ness. Brigitte actually was a very, very close friend of ours, and part of my kennel back in the late 90s came from Birgitte Ness with a dog that we got from her called Finn Henry. It was a purebred GSP, which was kind of a background of some of the dogs that we still have today in our yard. Patrick, how did you evolve from pulka and ski joring to limited class racing?
Yeah, it was a smooth sliding situation that you always get more and more dogs. So I need to have a second dog. So in this time I was new in the sport. I had this sled dog magazine from Sweden, which was made by Helen Lundberg. And there I saw a promotion that was written, a black label. It's written Ellis Racing Dogs, and there was under that was written short hair pointer for sale. So I took my phone, I called this guy. I had no idea who is Egil Ellis in this time, so you can't laugh about that. But I got the dog. His name was Steel. Steel was out of the last litter from Mu, what Egil made in the purebred lines from short hair pointers, and he is the brother to Viking, what he had in his kennel a long time when he was in Alaska also. Mm-hmm. And with this guy I was making all the pulka races, and he was running like hell. Yeah. So, and then there are coming more and more dogs, and suddenly I had 6 dogs. I decided to start with sprint mushing and made my first 4-dog team with 4 stay dogs, and it was running good. And yeah. was the enter into the sled classes.
Patrick, you live in Switzerland. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, it's a small country and very expensive country to have land or dogs or any type of activity with the sled dog sport. Tell us about some of the costs and the basically budget that you have to put together to have a sled dog team, even a small team.
If you have a kennel with around 10, 12 dogs, there is nobody who would rent out the house for you. So it means after the fourth dog costs you 1 million Swiss francs, because then you have to buy your own house. There's nobody who rents out something to a dog owner with 12 dogs. The case that Switzerland is that small and there are not that big parts to have around your house, it makes everything very expensive. With 10 or 12 dogs, you have to go out of the village and to find a ground where you can live with your dogs. And even there, if you can live there, 1 square meter costs around 500 Swiss francs. It's around the same in US dollar, around $500
per square foot. That's pretty crazy.
And if you have a dog yard which is 1,000 square meters, this is the absolutely minimum you need to have for 10 or 12 dogs. It costs 1 million, including the house. So this is why it is not easy to have a lot of dogs, and that's maybe also one of the reasons why we don't have that much open mushers anymore in Switzerland. One season for us, when we stay in Europe, we go to European Championships, maybe in Scandinavia, or we made in the past some mid-distance races in France or Spain. So we have a budget around 20,000 Swiss francs per season.
Yeah, it's completely different than some of the other countries that we talked to and interviewed. Of course, in the lower 48 of United States is cheaper. In Canada, it's definitely cheaper. And I've heard some very, very high numbers, but never that expensive to have such a small kennel. Patrick, how do you start your training? And tell us about your training regiment, how you prepare your dog team.
We try to have only single training during the summer. So we are making a short break in spring. And if the temperature is okay, we try to go with every dog at the bike or at the scooter with 2 dogs, sometimes for 1 kilometer, sometimes for 2 or 3. And so we try to keep our dogs always in shape. The idea behind this is that they have to have fun. And so I adapt our training plan also a little bit from the, for example, cross-country skiers. They have to be in shape in winter, but they also train serious during the summer. So that's the basic idea. And from September, October, November, we start with longer distance and team training. And so this single training gives us the chance to find out which dog is really going hard in lead, even if he is totally alone. And it's clear that you can't do that if you have 30 dogs in your kennel. But if you have 10 or 12, it is possible if you are 2 persons are training that.
Definitely. I recall those days when we did that, when we had a smaller yard. And do you train directly from your yard, or you have to truck the dogs to the track or to the forest to do that?
We we move always to the forest. We have 3-4 different possibilities to train, but we are not training from home because it's too loud and we have some neighbors, and that's the same point with a small country, always neighbors. It's not like in Scandinavia where your next neighbor is 1 kilometer away, so ours is 30 meters away.
30 meters away. That is true. That is so true. I live in Alaska, and I do the same. I have neighbors not 30 meters away, but probably 100 meters away, and it's not easy. We do the same thing. We have to haul the dogs because of the noise, because we don't want to bother the neighbors and be courteous to our neighbors. And what about the racing schedule that you have? Do you schedule your races ahead of the time, or you just look at what's going on and you may change weekend after weekend?
No, I always have one goal per season. So it can be, in the past I made 4 times the Pirena race in Spain. So I made that in ski touring and in sled later on when I had more dogs. But then this was focused on this race. So then I start also the training, for example, for a mid-distance. 3 years ago, I was taking part in Grand Odyssey, but I made only the one trophy. It was 4 days, but the stages were that long and that steep that you have to really to train the team for this race. So I always pick out one event where we want to be present, and so this is how we make it. It's not that we look where is the race and then we go there and there and there. So we have the plan to go next season again to the Pyrenees race, and that's a mid-distance race. That's always a challenge if you have one of the fastest 4-dog teams and one of the better 6-dog teams. You mix it together and try to make a mid-distance race. So
that's right. So
everything is possible.
Definitely. So when is your plan next season to come to Alaska and do the Alaskan circuit?
I think we are not able to make the move to Alaska in the short future. My main problem is my business. I have a distribution company for cross-country skis from Norway. And unfortunately, this runs the same time like I want to make races also.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not able to stay away for more than 2 weeks during the winter. And to have a serious, good team, you have to go to Alaska for 1 year, for 1 month and more.
Oh, absolutely. It's a long trip, so you definitely want to do it at least a month. Patrick, I'm always looking for ways to shave a second or half a second from my time when I'm on the sled. You mentioned something about cross-country skis. Do you use any of the technologies that we have in cross-country skiing in your racing gear?
I'm not using cross-country skis because they are not stable enough. They are lightweight built, and if you have sharp corners and a big team, and they are not stable enough to resist the pressure in the corners. And so I'm running a normal bundle sled,
okay.
But I have completely different runners. You can work a lot with structuring the racing base, or for example, if it's a soft trail, you can use wider runners from Daimler. They are not 4 centimeters, they are 5, and so your pressure distribution is much better and your sled glides better. Another point is right now it's a big discussion in the cross-country circus that they want eliminate all the fluor waxes.
Yes.
And with the fluor wax, you can make a big step forwards for a fast sled, because then your runners are not taking on the dirt from the trail. So they are clean, and then they are gliding better. But for the future, that will be a challenge to replace these fluor waxes.
That's interesting what Patrick says. That was a big news last year. I follow, skis and waxing and structuring and different techniques very, very closely. And last year, when the ski professional skiers, they were not allowed to use fluoro anymore, there was a huge spree of people buying fluoro waxes and stashing them in their equipment because there won't be any fluoro wax any longer because of the
but they can feel safe for the moment, because as I heard, that's the latest news from today, FIS is not able to distribute the testing equipment to the national ski teams to test the skiers' equipment if they are okay or not. So if they are not able to deliver this equipment, so you can't eliminate skiers, because these service guys, they are working like hell to make the fastest skis, and at the end they are like technical doping cases if they use a ski with too much fluor on the base. And so all the people who have bought the fluor waxes, they can use it without have some problems.
Definitely. Let's talk about racing. You mentioned you have different objectives every year. What is your objective this year with COVID and all the quarantines and everything that we have, and what are you planning?
So the plan as first is I made the inscription for the Pyrenees race in end of January and beginning of February. It's a mid-distance race in the French Pyrenees. And later on, I want to start at the World Championship in Asarna in Sweden. So these are the two goals what I have and what I'm preparing. And what my experience showed me, if you train a sprint team on mid-distance, then you will arrive with your sprint team, but you will not be the best. But the preparation is that good that you have a perfect sprint team after that. So this is the theoretical point.
So, Patrick, I have a couple of questions before we end our show here. I know that we've had a couple of athletes on that have done polka in the past, but I don't think we've ever described it. A lot of folks that listen to our show are just dog lovers or animal lovers. They don't know a lot about dog-powered sports themselves. Can you break that down for us and tell us what it is, how you compete, and maybe some history behind it, if you know?
Okay, I try to. The basic from polka is somewhere in the history from the Scandinavian people. So they went hunting out with their hunting dogs, and they used the dog to pull a polka that's like a small sled. It looks like a bob where you can charge your equipment. And so they used these polkas also for racing. The history was in the past, when I started 20 and more years ago, you had to make 20 kilogram polka for a female dog and 25 for a male. So all the Scandinavians, me either, were picking out the biggest females. So you have a big dog with a lighter polka. When everybody had these big females, they changed the rules. So then it was 70% of the weight of the dog. Pulka is made in one dog, or you have, it was called sprint long. You could go with 2 or 3 dogs in front of the pulka. They were fixed by like sticks, fiberglass sticks, and they were running behind each other. So you had 3 dogs in a row, not like in the sled where they were 2 beside of each other. So they were 3 dogs or 2 dogs in a row. When you use 2 dogs, in this time I made it once or twice, so my pulka was 56 kilograms heavy, because 70%, and you have 2 huge German short-hair pointers which were weighing 38 kilograms. So then you need a person who helps you to put this pulka out of the car, and that was a little bit funny. To ski with the pulka is less hectic than in ski touring, because the speed is more equalized and it needs a little bit better teamwork together. And I loved it in this time when I made it, but unfortunately there are not that many people which are doing that again still. So it's more or less the Norwegians and Swedish skiers, some Finnish and some Czech skiers are also present. But for example, in Middle Europe, you will not find one person who makes still pulka.
So
that's a little bit sad.
With the polka sled there in the middle, from history, was that a hunting concept? So the dogs would pull some of the game or whatever. Was that the original history behind it?
That was what I heard from the Scandinavians. There are other funny histories behind, but that's what I heard, and I believe in this history. Right.
So for folks that are listening, to take kind of a picture of this, it's sort of like a train. You have 1, 2, or 3 dogs in the front, all in single file. Then you have a sled of some sort in the middle, and then you have the musher at the back, and the musher is not on the sled. He is on a set of skis, and they are working their way down the trail as if they are sort of like in a ski jor, as Patrick had mentioned. It's quite the sight to see if you ever get a chance, but like you said, Patrick, not a lot of people are doing it anymore, and that's unfortunate. I think that's a cool part of our dog-powered sports is that history component. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. I think there is a chance for ski touring in the future, because the whole sport is growing with canicross and bike touring, and
yes,
these people, they want to do something in winter also, and so there is a chance to grow up the sport over the canicross and bike tourers to come to ski touring in the winter.
Oh, I totally agree. And as you mentioned, it's just so expensive now, especially as you mentioned in Switzerland, where you have to pay by the meter. I think that's sort of the future of dog sports is less dogs and more participants for sure. Patrick, we're almost out of time. I want to make sure that we ask the question we ask all of our guests, and that is, for a person that's just getting started in our sport, whether they're doing monosports or open class or world class racing, what would you tell that person if they ask you for one piece of advice?
I think always have fun and be realistic with everything what he is doing. So this is a big puzzle, and if he starts with 1 or 2 dogs, he can grow up slowly, but always choose the best for the situation. So it is never a good solution to to have a big war case where you can buy 20 or 30 dogs, but you have no idea how to handle and where to live.
That's a great point there for sure. Definitely only get as wet as you want to in the sport, meaning don't get in over your head for sure. KP, anything for Patrick before we go?
No, Patrick, thank you so much for spending the last 30 minutes with us. Really enjoyed chatting with you, and I'll be following your results on social media. Good luck to you with the training and the racing season ahead of you, and keep in touch.
Thank you very much, and have a nice day.
Thank you very much. On behalf of our guests today, this is Robert and KP for the Dog Driver Show. Make sure you check us out over on our website at dogworksradio.com. You'll find all of our episodes there, and if you think of a name in the sprint sports, we've probably interviewed them, so just type their name in the search bar, and you can probably hear that interview as well. We'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.
From First Paw Media, this is the Dog Driver Show. We hope you enjoyed this podcast, and we invite you to subscribe in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. You'll find a link on the episode notes. You can tap or swipe on the episode cover art, and you can see some offers from our sponsors. You can support our show by supporting them. If you like what you have heard, we would love it if you could give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe too. Your hosts are Robert Forto and Parto. Our producer is Robert Forto and created for First Paw Media.